All right, and we are live. Let me get this all set up. Hold on a second. There we go. All right, let me move this over corner. Actually, not too shabby. I'll do it right there. All right. So, let me get this all. So not showing the chat. There we go. All right. I don't know, for a second there, it wasn't showing the chat. Now it's not wanting to show the chat. Why is it not wanting to show the chat? There we go. Oh, why is it not wanting to show the chat? There we go. All right. So, all right. Well, it's kind of, I don't know what it's doing. Anyways, so we are live. This is the first mock draft we'll be making of this upcoming NFL draft 2026. Obviously, usually what I do is I do like make a whole entire like video, like hour long video. This time I'll make it live. That way, like in case anybody comes in, they want to ask a question. I'm down to ask questions. But like I said, kind of going through, spending about 4 minutes per team, going over like what I think their needs are right now. Obviously, like I said, free agency will change that, and like I said, some of the cuts that we make and will change that. So that's why we want to have a post the first like week or so after free agency starts. Do one after that too, and then also do like a week after the draft because you got to know all the people who are like visiting the actual teams will get you a little better idea. Hello there, Dobby. How you doing? How you doing? How are you? Let me get this set up. For some reason, it's not. It's going to be kind of weird right now. I'm not seeing everybody's. Oh, it's like moving it over. Why? For some reason, it is not letting me see the whole entire chat, and I don't understand why that is. Like, it's cutting off. Let me see if I can see. It's cutting off Emmanuel's message. Why is it doing that? Hold a second. Goodness gracious, act like I've never streamed before. Why are you doing that? Literally, why are you doing that? Woo, that's not what I want. There we go. All right. Hello, Ryan. Hope you're doing well since the last game. So glad the Super Bowl went that way it did. My Pat's Hayden finally paid off. Yes, it is. How many rounds are you doing? Oh, I'm only doing one round. I'm only doing one round. The last mock draft I'll do 2 rounds, so that'll be the one the week before Super Bowl. But this one I only doing one round because, like I said, one I'm just going to let you know kind of like the top guys that I think the people are going to be looking for in the first round. Secondly, a lot of the positions that I think could be filled are going to be filled in free agency. So making a two round mock draft now, a lot of these positions are going to be filled up. So like there's not really going to be like that second guy that I'm thinking that they could possibly get. They're going to get this free agency. So that's why I'm not really going to make a two-round mock draft until the week before draft. Um, Again, I don't know why it's cutting off. It makes no sense why it's doing that. Literally. I don't want to delve too much into it. However, pass rusher is a position need. Yes, it is. Once again for the Falcons, for 60th in a row, I'm so done with this team. Yeah, I don't want to go too deep into the fact of what happened with your guy, but yeah, no, the red flags that were shown by James Pierce Jr. Showed up already. Like that was a concern. The reason why he fell in the draft to begin with. But the fact of how like everything that went down, like we're not going to go deep into it, but the fact of everything that went down, I don't know. I don't know. There's also a lot of people who were from Charlotte who went to his high school and said that he was a crash out in high school too. So obviously all that stuff's coming out now, but yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what you do. It'll be interesting to see what you do. So let's go ahead and get into it. Like I said, before each draft pick, I'm going to go over like what I think the needs are right now. Obviously, there's some teams that have a whole lot of needs, so we'll kind of go into that. Just glad jersey. Yeah, good thing you did buy James Pierce Jr. jersey. All right, so let's go into it. First off, let's go with Las Vegas. So Las Vegas has a lot of needs. Now, obviously, I'm only going to go over like who they're going to get in the first overall pick, not going in the second round. But obviously, they're going to take Fernando Mendoza. I mean, there's not really any kind of debate. They're going to take Fernando Mendoza. I do think they keep Geno Smith around for like that veteran presence for Mendoza. But let's look at the overall kind of picture. In my mind, I've kind of talked about before that the Raiders desperately need to fix their offensive line. And I think they can, especially a second into that fourth round pick. They could probably go a third round pick, like a wide receiver, what we'll talk about in a second. But the offensive line is atrocious. Outside of really, like, in my I think it's a possibility that he was a third round pick from one of the smaller schools, or Charles something, where it's his second year. So you can have him, Colton Miller, who's I think you could possibly take that Oregon guard. I'll just give you a little heads up. I think they take the Oregon guard at the top of the first round, top of the second round, to be able to like replace Dylan Parham. Just kind of help elevate this offensive line. Wide receivers also need a lot of help. So there's potential where if you don't go offensive line, you could go with like Surratt in the second round or possibly in the third round. But I think Surratt's going to go like mid to late second round. You could take Cooper as well. Like I said, probably get like some familiarity. I would love to see what they're going to do in free agency as well with the Raiders. But obviously, I mean, there's not really any kind of debate. First overall, they're going to take Fernando Mendoza. So like I said, there's no really any kind of debate right there. That's just kind of how it is. Emmanuel, you see the report that Crosby wants out? Yes, I did see that. I wonder if he gets his wish. If he doesn't come to contender, they keep him. Whatever happens. My thing is this with Crosby. Like, I know that Kubiak wants to keep him, obviously, and they promoted the defensive line coach to defensive coordinator, kind of help bridge the gap a little bit. Like, hey, you work with Max Crosby, right? So Max Crosby, don't you want to play for your position coach? But the way that he's been describing it is the fact of like, I don't like the fact that the way things were handled last year, and it was from the top down. And so he didn't like the way that Tom Brady was handling it because of what's his name? The health guru for Tom Brady. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was back there with the Buccaneers. He's the one who was handling like as far as like the communication with Max Crosby, and they pretty much just shut him down. And that's the reason why like he was so upset. 'Cause he was like, in Max Crosby's defense, he doesn't want to play for a team that like doesn't care about winning. And so that's what kind of the Raiders showed, is like they want to secure a first overall pick. And so I understand why you get upset. Yes, Tyler Lockett. Yes, Tyler Lockett was the Raider. He got traded to the Raiders mid-season, I believe, from the Titans to the Raiders. But yes, that is. It is very strange to see him as a Raider. I mean, it makes sense though. All right, so going to number 2. This is where my opinion of what the Jets are going to do differs heavily from everyone else, and I want to explain for a second. Obviously, like I said, Jets have a whole lot of problems. You got no QB. You got very little. You got some weapons. Like I said, I think Mason Taylor is going to be great. Obviously, you got Garrett Wilson. You got Breece Hall. But like outside of that, you're kind of like looking at like, not Mitchell. I don't know. You've got your bookend tackles. Amazing. I think you're doing a really good job as far as with the offensive line. As far as like hopefully if they can stay healthy, that's the only problem with your interior offensive line. But your bookend tackles will be amazing. And then you've got pieces on defense that you just got to keep on trying to improve. So obviously I think they're going to go defense. Not going to be a surprise there. But who they're going to pick? More often than not, especially some of these very desperate teams, are going to take more of a sure thing than take projection. I know that goes against what some people believe, but Arvo Reese has the potential to be Micah Parsons-like. But here's the thing. There is only one Micah Parsons. And in other instances where people say, this is going to be Micah Parsons, this is going to be like Micah Parsons, it hasn't worked out. Or hasn't worked out yet. So again, in my opinion, I think that Arvo Reese is going to fall down. I don't think he's going to be, going second overall. And also, I'm thinking about Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is trying to save his job. So he's going to want somebody that's definitely going to be able to benefit in year one. Also, when he was at the Lions, who do they take that also had short arms? That was Aiden Hutchinson, who you got to think back. So, in my opinion, I think they're going to take Ruben Bain Jr. Now, Jets have a lot of problems. Like I said, wide receiver, I can show you this. They got wide receiver problems. They've got cornerback problems. They got whole entire defensive line problems in general. But my thing is this. There are some rumors being spread right now that Jermaine Johnson could potentially be traded. That could happen. Potentially like a third round pick or whatnot. But if you're looking at right now, it's Will McDonald, who was another first round pick, and then you got Braden McGregor, like Tyler Barron, Mathis, Michael Clemens, who's he's not been necessarily the best. And so like I said, you're looking at your edge rushers, and it's not all that great. So in Ruben Bain, you're getting not only the high floor of an amazing run defender. I understand the crocodile arms. I don't care. Amazing run defender that has proven to have a high motor, who's still young and still can get even better as he is already, but his pocket moves and he has an amazing first step. Coached by Jason Taylor, I'm taking more of a leash, but towards the end of the draft, there's absolutely some great defensive tackles and defense and some edges that I can see the Bears taking that I have written down, and I'll go in that discussion. I'll be in and out since I'm working here and there, but still here. Okay, they're very good. Don't wait. Hold a second. See, I don't understand why the chat is not full screen. Why in the world is it not letting me see it all the way? Still don't understand why. It's literally like cutting off. Don't count out Ruben Bain like that. I'm assuming that's what you're saying. I'm sorry I can't see what it says. So, moving on to number 3. So, moving on to number 3 is going to be the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals, obviously transitioning with a new head coach, with LaFleur. Here's the deal. If I'm Mike LaFleur, and I see that how much of a problem this offensive line was, especially with Jonah Williams being absolute buns. In my opinion, I think the Cardinals take the same exact approach, not necessarily the same exact approach to the Jets last year, but like getting your bookend tackles for the foreseeable future is going to be super important. Obviously, you could go interior offensive line. I'm not the biggest fan of Evan Brown, but I think obviously that's way too injury. And honestly, that's going to be a problem, especially the running back room. Trey Benson and James Conner both of them got hurt, and that's where I have some problems as far as getting production. But I don't think they're going to go like some people have said, going Jeremiah Love. I don't think so because you invest a second round pick, and in between who I think, obviously, like I said, there's 2 right tackles. There's Francis Mauigoa and also Spencer Fanu. I like both of them about the same. Now, I will say that Mauigoa has more power, in my opinion, than Fanu. So I'm looking for a bigger right tackle who's going to be like a mauler in the run game compared to a pass protector more so than for Fano. I got 3 players that played in the national championship game back to back to back. Like I said, I would be happy if I'm a Cardinals fan having your 2 tackles for the next 10 years, and then just try to figure out what your quarterback situation is going to be like, because it does not look like you're going to be running back with Kyler. And is there a possibility that you get Malik Willis? Maybe, but are you going to pay them that much money compared to what you're already paying for Kyler Murray? Like I said, all that stuff's going to be really kind of dove more into, especially more free agency. So we'll go into that a little bit later then for that. Now, moving on to the 4th overall pick. This is also where I'm a little confused because, on one hand, you got your guy in. Oh my gosh, I'm just losing my mind right now. Former Jets head coach, DC for the 49ers, Robert Saleh. Goodness gracious! So you got Robert Saleh as your new head coach. He did an amazing job with the 49ers for what he has as far as all the injuries, all that kind of stuff. So for his first year at the Titans, is he going to look at a top draft pick as far as getting an impact player as far as on his defensive line? Or is he going to look more so to get a weapon for Cam Ward to kind of pair with the addition of Brian Daboll? Brian Daboll also coming from the Giants, who he's right ahead of the Giants, and he knows who the Giants are going to be looking for. So is there a possibility where Brian Daboll could be like, hey, screw you, Giants. I know exactly who you're going to take. I'm going to take them now. So it could be a wide receiver in that sense. Obviously, they're probably going to take offensive line because they've been taking offensive line the last 3 drafts pretty much outside of Cam Ward. So, in my opinion, I think they're going to add to that defensive line. Already, you have two amazing defense tackles with Sweat and also with Simmons because I think they're going to transition more so to a 4-3. That's what Saleh has been doing. So you have your bookend tackles. Now you can each edge rushers, and since you already have the run defense of both those defense tackles, you can sacrifice an edge that might not be necessarily the best against the run or has some limitation against the run for someone who can absolutely wreck an offensive line, and that's going to be David Bailey. In my opinion, I think they could go out. I think they could go wide receiver. Like I said, right now, if you look at their wide receiver room, it's like Calvin Ridley, it's DK, who I think is kind of was a very solid wide receiver as well. And Eric Alamayer. Yeah, goodness gracious, I keep on messing up his name. From the wide receiver from Stanford last year, that kind of like it as far as it being a big Z that can block. Alec Io Manor. Goodness gracious, like I said, your wide receiver room is not necessarily the best, but you could look to add that with like your second round pick. So I think I like Chig Okonkwo. Obviously, like I said, your running back room is not necessarily the best, but like I said, there's been times Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears has actually produced a little bit. Hopefully, your offensive line can produce, can actually work out a little bit better with Brian Dable as your OC. But if you're looking at the defensive line, obviously, I said Sweat, Simmons is going to be your defensive tackles. Sebastian Jobs-Day, like he's going to be more like I said, in the rotation. And then your edge rushers is going to be like if you bring back Arden Key. But I really like Oladipo. I can't remember how you say his name, but he was a second round pick last year. He has potential as where he could be the edge rusher that you put with David Bailey. So in my opinion, I would take David Bailey. He's 6'3", 250, absolutely wrecked any offensive line he went against. Like I said, he even did really well against, like I said, the Utah tackles. So like I said, David Bailey, I understand like there's some concerns as far as like his ability and run defense, but if you got two amazing defensive tackles, all he's got to do is set an edge. If he can just set an edge, like I said, and still like on pass rush downs, be absolutely just a menace. Former defensive coordinator for the Titans is now the defensive coordinator for the Giants, who's up right now, and the Davis absolutely just crushed their dreams and caused them to have so many short fields. So that's why like their points, there was like 27. They led like 27 points per game, and I was like, well, it's not really on them. I mean, some of it is, but like not all of it's on them. But they had like the second best defense as far as like yards per game. But now he's defense coordinator for the New York Giants. Not at all, but it is what it is. Every coach on the Titans is bald. I heard yes they are. Brian Dable. Brian Dable, Robert Saleh. I'm like picturing like the graphic that they showed. I can't remember the other people. But going back to the Giants, like I said, Giants. If you're looking at their offense, this is where I might change up my pick next round because, like I said, there's going to be a lot of stuff the Giants are going to be doing. They're going to pay Wando Robinson, who, like I said, because Malik Neighbors was hurt, Wando Robinson had a pretty good year. Now, is that because of the fact that he just was good tackle? So you're looking at potentially, like I said, at this point, and you're not loving your offensive line. So I could see me changing up my pick and going offensive line, looking for another separator. And this particular prospect, I think, could slip in the draft because of injuries. But in this mock draft, I'm going to have him going high. I know there's a lot of hype for Carnell Tate. In my opinion, I like Carnell Tate, but as a number 2, like strictly as a number 2, and I'm not taking the number 2 at back. He gets hurt again. Injury concerns are huge. Like I said, last year had an amazing year. But this year, I think he had only played 3 games, something like that. It was a very, very low amount of games. I think that was his redshirt freshman year. He had gotten hands is someone who's going to be looked after as can be a red zone threat. Tyson to complement Malik Neighbors with having Theo Johnson hopefully being able to keep making the strides he's already been making to be able to have you a pretty good receiving room for Jackson Dart to be able to continue to develop. So in my opinion, like I said, I would go with Jordan Travis. Now, going to the Browns. Obviously, the Browns also have a lot of help, need a lot of help, but I think I don't. Honestly, I can't really pin down what Jimmy Haslam is going to do because Jimmy Haslam is a very interesting person to say the least. But your defense is already solid, so I don't think you're obviously. I don't think you're going to pick anybody on our defense in the first round, potentially second round. But like I said, I think your first two picks probably probably going to be the first two picks in the first round are going to be on offense. So, in my opinion, for the Cleveland Browns, you need help on the offensive line. You could use another edge rusher, which is why I'm saying for a second round pick, McGuire. So like I said, but I'm looking right now at the offensive line, and we're looking at Jack Conklin. Like I said, Jack and being very very injury prone as well. I mean, look, they really literally brought in Kendrick Green. Like I said, so in my opinion, I think they're going to go offensive line with the Jaguars pick. But in my opinion, with him still being there, I think they're going to take Spencer Fano. So you've got your bookend right tackle and Spencer Fano. You're hoping that, like I said, you're hoping that you can just have almost like a patchwork offensive line for the time being, while seeing, how we're going to do this year with the new head coach without our DC that's made our defense been good the last 3 or 4 years. So how is that going to change? And then for Jimmy Haslam, if you're looking at the fact of okay, let's try to just build up this offense so that when we do eventually get our Huckins has shown potential. Obviously, like I said, you got Harold Fanning Jr. has been amazing. David Njoku is gone, but like I said, Harold Fanning Jr. has been amazing. I think that I still kind of like Cedric Tillman. I mean, that's just a little. I just like him since his time in Tennessee. And then Jerry Jeudy can't get open. So you have some potential right now, but obviously I think you're going to add on another wide receiver for the Browns. But like I said, in 3 years, that seems like a lot for a team that needs talent at all positions. In my opinion, like I said, for the Giants, I'm just thinking as far as you already have a quarterback and you have your running back. Are you going to take another offensive line? Like I said, that's the reason why I said it depends on free agency. I just think that they're going to let Wanda Robinson walk and going to keep Jermaine. Now, if it shows that Jermaine is going to be gone and they desperately need a bookend tackle, then I'm thinking, okay, they're going to try to improve their wide receiver room while getting cheaper, while getting more talented, and also already going to just kind of work their way up to try to get a better offensive line where you had Jermaine be your right tackle, and then just as the draft progresses in the third or fourth round, more offensive linemen to be able to actually have some better depth. So that's where I'm saying is I understand taking 2 wide receivers in the top 6 is definitely a choice. It wouldn't be the wildest thing considering they want to do their best, try to surround Jackson Dart with the best talent. So that's where I'm saying I understand that some people are going to be upset with what I take with Jordan Tyson. I just think that there's a possibility that they do because of Joe Shane's trying to save his job. So if he can get an immediate impact in Jordan Tyson, where it could be hey, so going on to the Commanders. This one's kind of obvious for me. So I think obviously the Commanders are going to go a defense. If you just look at their defensive starters, it's either aging veterans or it's absolute buns. You saw last year how they were not able to get a whole lot of pressure. You're hoping you're able to get some from your guy Von Miller. Didn't get as Von Miller had. See here. How much do you have? He had 9. Oh, he actually had 9. I didn't realize he had 9 sacks. Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner they're actually doing pretty good. But if you're looking at defensive line, not the best, obviously. Like I said, Dietrich Wise, Dorrance Arm. You have obviously, who did he work with? Who did he work with at the Cowboys? He worked with Micah Parsons. Again, do I think that Arvin Reese is going to be is going to be Micah Parsons. No, I don't think he is. I think that sometimes we get a little bit too lazy with our pro comparisons, which I don't try to do those because most of the time they are incredibly lazy or they just focus on one aspect and then they just blow past a whole bunch of other stuff. Oliver Reese needs our first 6 games, something like that. He was producing, and then after that he had 0 sacks, which obviously sacks is not necessarily detailing how good a player is, but it's one of those things where okay, as the season progressed, and in their game against Miami, did you really see Oliver Reese do anything? No, he didn't. Now is that because, like I said, maybe based upon scheme, maybe based on all this stuff, maybe potentially, but he kind of fell off at the near end. And again, it's going to work out for Oliver Reese. He's a little bit of a projection, but if you're looking at your pass rush, a Micah Parsons-esque role in your defense as an edge rusher in his first couple years, while he makes that transition to the NFL. And then once you get rid of Frankie Louvu, like in the next, I think they have it for maybe another year or two, then you could put him in that role where he's like a blitzing linebacker that still is like he can't be able to cover. But he's a chess piece. Maybe not necessarily the best, in my opinion. I think I'm going way too down on Oliver Reese, and I don't mean to. Projecting him as Micah Parsons right here, right now, and I don't think that's fair to him. I don't think it's fair to him. But I think he has potential to be really good. So in my opinion, I said that he falls down, but he's not going to fall down very far. In my opinion, he's going to be scooped up by the Commanders. Commanders fans are going to be absolutely hysterical the fact they got Oliver Reese, and hopefully be able to improve that defense. That, like I said, obviously left hoping that okay, with a technically a second place, with a third place division schedule. Hopefully, we're to bounce back and have Jane Davis come back and having an amazing year. So, offense receivers, I think, like I said, obviously they show even McCaffrey every now and then. So, defense going over Reese to get both. In my opinion, they need help at linebacker, especially as far as like depth and help at edge. They get both those Arvell Reese. One for me because they're desperately need help. Because you're looking at Cameron Jordan eventually going to retire. You got DeMarcus Davis eventually going to retire. You got Tyrann Mathieu, who's also old. Like I said, you got a lot of these old players on your defense that are going to be gone. And some of the draft picks you've already had haven't really developed the way you were hoping them. Now, your acquisition of Chase Young has been amazing for y'all. He had an amazing year last year. You already got Carl Granderson. So, in my opinion, I would have thought interior defensive line. I don't know. Maybe they still believe a little bit in Brian Brzee, so probably not. Do I go linebacker? Is this too early for Sonny Styles? I don't think it is, but in my opinion, I don't think they're going to go linebacker to help replace DeMarcus Davis. So, I'm looking at the offense now. If I'm looking at the offense, I'm looking at will they try to get a wide receiver this high? Right now, it could be Malachi Littman, could be Carnell Tate, could be if someone absolutely loves Denzel Boston. I think it's a little bit high for them. So in my opinion, I don't think they're going wide receiver, though I could see it because of the fact of once Chris Olave went down, it was absolutely abysmal. They had a lot of injuries. Vele has been good, so when they're healthy, you have Vele and Chris Olave. I think that's a pretty good 1-2 punch. You need a third guy, but you can probably get in the second or third round. So not wide receiver. Not going to go offensive line because you already gone offensive line like the last couple of years. And I think that you have found a rhythm with the but in my opinion, the Saints are going to take Jeremiah Love. Now, obviously that's going to take off a lot of Chiefs fans because they already pretty much assume they're going to take Jeremiah Love. But Kamara is 31 years old. He's going to his last year of his deal. They can technically save some money, I think, if they cut him, or especially, like I said, if they just want to go off the books like next year. But you're looking right. If I'm Mickey Loomis, which I would hate to be Mickey Loomis, but if I'm Mickey Loomis, I want to surround my rookie QB, who's older, but a rookie QB with the most talent possible. most talent possible would be Jeremiah Love. Instead of reaching for a wide receiver, it would be bringing in Jeremiah Love to be a center of offense where you saw with Kellen Moore of how he was able to do with Saquon Barkley. Again, I would hate it. It would mean we would have Jeremiah Love. It would mean that we had a Bucky Irving and also Bijan Robinson all in the same executive sense. If you're thinking of the fact of like the Saints need to get younger positions, the way the board has fallen, you're not getting like one of the top 3 edge rushers to be able to help out the edge rush rotation. And you did a pretty decent job with, like I said, brainstorming this first year, going to second year. You can always add more, especially like I said, probably taking a cornerback in the second round because, like I said, Alontae Taylor's going to be gone. I would hate it. I would absolutely hate it. But I could see it happening because, like I said, they need a lot of help. But and hey, as much as I would love to get the Saints a long snapper, I'm gonna be as good as I possibly can be. Is give everybody where I think that if how the board falls in this particular sense, I could see it happening. I would hate it, but it could happen. So now the Chiefs are up, and obviously if you're the Chiefs, you're like, we have been clamoring for Jeremiah Love for this whole entire time, and I wouldn't have a chance to even see him. He's not gonna be. I mean, you don't even get to see him in your conference. But even the Chiefs, obviously, the big need is running back. But with Jeremiah Love gone, which honestly, like I said, wouldn't surprise me if he is gone by the 9th pick. Where do you pivot? So you could go wide receiver, obviously, like I said, but I don't think they're going to go because, like I said, you already have a first-round pick with Isaiah Worthy. Second-round pick was Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, all this kind of stuff. Like I said, I could see go wide receiver, maybe Mekhi Lemon, but again, I don't think that they're going to invest a first-round pick, especially a top 10 pick, where you rarely are on a cut. Jawaan Taylor, I think they actually more be your right tackle. And then, like I said, you just hope that Kingsley continues to improve into his second year, or have Caliendo come in. So looking at defense. If I'm looking at defense, what's a huge need? Huge for the Chiefs. It's pass for League 1. So, I'm looking at the fact that Chris Jones, I think 32. Is he 32? I think he is. So, you got Chris Jones going to turn 32. You've already got Omar Norman Lott, who I think is pretty good. So, I could see potentially that you could go after a Peter Woods to kind of help that transition into Chris Jones and have a pretty good rotation of defensive tackle play. But I don't think they're going to go defensive tackle, but it is a potential. I think they're going to go edge rusher. Obviously, Felix, he has not quite worked out the way they were hoping for. You got Karlaftis, has been pretty solid, but you need a running back with him. So, if I'm looking at somebody, and I know it's a whole lot of projection, and I'll explain in a second why it's a whole lot of projection. I'm not a homer, though it might seem that I am. I am indeed an Auburn fan. But if I'm looking at the top edge rushers that the Chiefs typically try to take, someone who can also move inside to help create, like I said, on pass rush downs, where you could have Chris Jones, you could have Keldrick Falk, you could have Omar Norman Lott, and also Karlaftis to have a pretty decent, like I said, kind of pass rush. Keldrick Falk is an interesting person because as much as I love him, his production did drop significantly last year. Part of that is because he was getting double teamed a lot more than he was last year. But another thing too is if you look at the kind of stuff that he had, if I can see if it can show me, it's not going to show me. But he had 31 pressures last year. He had 27 this year. But his sacks dropped significantly from 9 to 7. No, from 9 to 2. So again, it's a lot. It's a lot of change. But he also moves up and down the offensive line. Like I said, a lot more in this. And last year, he 200 over the tackle. Like I said, head up. He can move inside as well. He is, 6'6", 285. He's got a very big frame. And if I'm looking at trying to appease my DC and Spagnuolo, he is the kind of guy to be that Spagnuolo like he could be like a Michael Brockers kind of defender, where he can give you a pass rush, but he's going to be more of a disruptor, and an amazing run defender. Like Keldrick Falk is obviously Ruben Bain is up there. Ruben Bain is by far my top edge rusher for run defense. But right underneath him is Keldrick Falk to me. And that's with like the fact of like he has very long arms. He needs to get September or so. Like he's very, very young. So you're looking at projection as far as like he could get even better. But you're thinking like, okay, can also my blitz packages free Karlaftis, especially if you somehow put twist moves off of there. Like I said, there's a lot of things you can do with Keldrick Falk. And I do think that a lot of people are going to see like, oh, he's just Mikael Williams, and he could possibly just be where he just his absolute highest floor is an amazing run defender, and he could bring you some pass rush, but it's mainly that. Run defense is a very underrated game. It's a very underrated game, and if you're looking at getting a high impact kind of guy because you lost out on Jeremiah Love, I think Keldrick Falk is the move. Again, I'm not trying to like I am an Auburn fan, so I guess there's a little bit of bias there. But if you just also not only just me, but you look at a lot of the other analysts, they even say what I'm saying too, where like it is definitely still projection, but if you're watching the tape, not just stat padding, just watching the stats, he is freeing up a lot of other people. Like if you're looking at the fact of Xavier Atkins had an amazing year, Xavier Atkins I love so much, but a lot of times where he absolutely just shut down. I like Keldrick Falk. I think he's going to do really well in the NFL as far as like having a high floor of amazing run defense, and hopefully he can also get better as far as a pass rusher. Hello there, Zoe. How you doing? How you doing, Falk? Now, moving on to number 10. Bengals just need a whole lot of help, and they've got this amazing gift that has fallen into their lap. But I've seen some people say, "Oh, even if he falls down to them, they're not going to take Caleb Downs." Here's what I'm going to show you, especially offensive line in the first round. They're going to lose Trey Hendrickson unless they tag him, and they could potentially trade him as well. But you got Joseph Ossai, you got Shamar Stewart, you got Myles Murphy. So that's going to be. Could they potentially go defensive tackle here? Could they go like a Peter Woods or Caleb Banks? I think there's a possibility that they could go So Golden, who's their defense coordinator, was formerly defense coordinator for Notre Dame. Also for a long time was for Miami as well. Al Golden, does an amazing job when he has great safeties. And if there's somehow, some way, that Caleb Downs falls to 10, so I think Caleb Downs could go higher. I know that it's a safety. I do not care. He's by far one of the best. He's by far one of the best players in the actual the draft class. If he falls down to 10, Bengals are absolutely going to take him because since Jesse Bates left and went to the Falcons, their safety room has been absolutely abysmal. They tried and they failed. Okay, they tried, but even though Stone would have stopped from getting Caleb Downs, absolutely not either. Caleb Downs, somehow, some way, that I can get Caleb Downs. I do not care if Keldrick Falk is there. Don't take Keldrick Falk. I don't care. I don't even care if he's sure things. Instead of taking Shamar Stewart, which was a dumb decision for them to do in the first place, because I said he was very much projection. Instead of taking 25-year-old, you just need help in your defense. And with the fact, I'll take it any day. Like I said, Bengals Dolphins are fascinating too because, obviously, like I said, you have a new GM, you have a new head coach. So who are they going to quarterback though? That's obvious. But if we're looking at as far as their offense, because I do think there's a possibility the defense that even though they hire the defense coordinator for the Packers to be the head coach, I do think there's still a possibility they could go offense in the first round because if you're looking at the offensive line. Looking at wide receivers, obviously, like I said, Tyreek Hill is interesting. Are they going to trade him, cut him, what kind of stuff? It's not the best, but are you going to take a wide receiver here? I don't think so. So again, I could see there's possibility. They could go right now. You got Jordan Phillips and Saylor, who's your starting defensive tackles. Kenneth Grant was your first-round pick last year. So again, I don't think they're going to go interior defensive line. I don't think they're going to go interior defensive line. So I think Kenneth Grant's amazing. I loved him coming out of college. I think he'll be really good in their scheme. edge, so again, that kind of creates a little bit of a problem. I don't mind the linebacker room because, like I said, I think that the type of linebacker, especially like, but I'm looking at their secondary. Like I said, you got Miss Fitzpatrick and Ashton Davis. It's not terrible. Obviously, could be better. But the quarterback room is buns. Is Jack Jones Dolphins? I'm looking at two guys in particular. Delane had an amazing year. Amazing year. And then on the other end, for his ACL, so he's coming off injury, and he's basically about the same as size as well. So, I'm still deciding between what Surtain does. It's kind of the same exact kind of conversation you have with Surtain and J.C. Horn when they were coming out that I have with them in the same exact way as this year. You got to have that you had no choice. You had no because your secondary was so bad. Panthers versus and the Panthers Astro that started with the Dolphins. So again, in my opinion, Jermon McCoy is an absolutely excellent, especially like from his interviews. I think Jermon McCoy could be the first one, or it could be Delane. The Cowboys need, but they just need help in their defense. Obviously, schemes is a huge ordeal because, like I said, you did have the top edge rushers are gone, and staring right at you is a huge need. Obviously, edge is one of them. Safety could be one of the problem. You got Overshown, but if you want your defense to be able to be a guy, do you see how it's in the previous year? But he only had 2 missed tackles. He led a top with hips. He could go higher. If I'm at 12, and I want to make sure it's ever, and I'm talking about the Panthers who were absolutely off. The Cowboys were, so I'm taking Sonny Styles. Was drafted. I do. I can't wait for the Caleb Downs. Yeah, and the last one they drafted in the first round. Picked in the first round. Wasn't that Dax Hill? Was that in the first round? Remember there was some. I think it was, but yeah, like it was crazy when he left. I understood why he left because they didn't want to pay him because they never want to pay anybody except for now. All of a sudden they want to pay their wide receivers. But the fact that the Bengals haven't been able to find an answer at safety, if Caleb Downs is there, just get him. Now onto the Rams. Haverstein, who retired. So actually, pull it up. Pull up their depth chart. You got Haverstein that retired. You also, but I think the 13th still guy for right now. And then if he's there at 29, you take him. So on offense, you're feeling really great. You got Puka, Devine, Matthew Stafford with the offensive line. That now, because of the fact, like I said, that you got Haverstein that retired. Now you're looking at Warren McClendon that's starting right now, your right tackle. In my opinion, I think there's potential they could go free agency here, but I could be Blake Miller later on or something like that, who's I think is pretty solid. Never going to be like a star, but could potentially be just like a solid option. So I look at the defense now. Look at the defense. What was a huge problem for the Rams last year? Their secondary. Not necessarily their safeties. Their safeties several times. Quentin Lake came back, was pretty good. They got Roger McCreary, who did a pretty decent job. Shout out to Auburn. But your starters are not necessarily the best. So you're going in to you got Marvin Harrison Jr. and also Michael Wilson. You got Cooper Kupp and also a JSN. And you also got Juwan Jennings and also, like I said, you got Chris McCaffrey also. But like you also have Florida wide receiver. White guy, Ricky Pearsall. So you got like still got pretty decent wide receivers you can be going up against. And also, if you're going to be trying to go to the Super Bowl, you got to have a short shot down corner. So in my opinion, even though I could see them potentially go for a tackle, I think it's too high for a tackle. I think it's too high to get a replacement for Matthew Stafford. I think Stafford has maybe like another 2 more years in him, maybe. So I'm going Delane. Like I said, if Delane's taken by the Dolphins, it'll be McCoy. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be any kind of change. I think they're going to take a cornerback for the Rams. So Delane, you get your shutdown corner. You have a great pass rush. It's going to help out your rookie as well. And like I said, you can play a little more man because, like I said, he also does really well at man. So that's the other thing too with him, man versus McCoy, who I think can play a little more zone. Now on to the Ravens. Ravens are also fascinating too because here's the thing with the Ravens. Yes, you got a new head coach. Yes, you got like a new head coach is also on the defensive side, but you do have some holes, and some holes that I think potentially um, that Ravens fans think they're going to retain some people, but I don't know if they are. Could it be possible they retain Tyler Linderbaum? Sure, but it's not guaranteed because Linderbaum is going to be expensive, and I don't know if you're going to want to pay Linderbaum what you're paying him, also paying Ron Stanley what you're paying him, also be paying, like I said, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson what you're paying him, as well as like the defense being kind of expensive as well. So again, I don't know if you're going to be going, like I said, to be like, oh, we're definitely going to get Linderbaum. So I could see interior offensive line, but last year, and you saw it play out not beautifully because it wasn't beautifully for the Ravens, but perfectly. When Mamadike went down with a neck injury, it screwed up everything for them. Or potentially if Mamadike, if like if he's not quite as going as where they're hoping, this could be a Peter Woods. In my opinion, I think it's just based upon what I think as far as like bringing in Jesse Minter. I think he's gonna hope that Mamadike comes back as where he was. So you got Mamadike being as dominant as he is. Go edge rusher, but potentially go edge rusher in the second round, kind of like complement Kyle Van Noy, Mike Green. Um, Also, you could bring in, like I said, either one of the Chargers edge rushers. So you could bring back Owe. You could bring in Khalil Mack. Like I said, from what I've heard, they like playing for him. So it could make sense if like your Khalil Mack be like, I could come back to the Chargers or I could go to the Ravens. So I think they're good there in the first round. So in my opinion, Daniel Falale, he's going to be gone. I'm pretty sure he's a free agency. Tyler Linderbaum could come back for the right price, but it's going to be expensive. And so, are you looking to make sure that you have that interior offensive line secured? And in my opinion, the best guy to get is going to be the Penn State guard. He is absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. He is 6'4", 328. Overall, he had a pretty good job. He did struggle against Indiana, but then again, like I said, who didn't? If we're being honest, who didn't? But as you can see, he gave up no sacks and no hits last year. And only one hit last year. He only gave up 4 pressures. Like I said, in my opinion, he's amazing in pass pro. I think he is a run defender. I think he's also a pretty good. I think he's better in pass protection than he is in run blocking. But I think he's amazing. I think he's amazing regardless. I think it's a sure thing, and if you're the Ravens, you got to have more of a sure thing because you're still in that Super Bowl window. You got to get cheaper for some positions, and that's going to be offensive line, especially if you're going to try to play Linderbaum. You got to get cheaper. So get the talent as you will. Get ONA. I think I have to say his name right. And fill out an offensive line that's going to be able to still carry Derrick Henry throughout his 32, 33 year in his career. I don't know how long he's got left. You also want to have protection for Lamar Jackson. I just realized it's going to be one of the greatest mock drafts ever because no Green Bay at all. Yes, well, there's no Green Bay and there's no Jaguars. So, like I said, that's also helpful too. So I can focus on other people. And no Falcons, but like I said, that's not the reason why it's the best one, Emmanuel. So moving on, so going to the Bucks. And here's the problem with retaining Todd Bowles. It's mediocrity. And so you're looking at the Buccaneers. Your offense is solid. And you look at the defense. Lavonte David took a step back. He's old. He's like 34 years old. So, again, he doesn't have necessarily the same except he used to have. Dennis was not the way you were hoping for. So, linebacker is still a huge need. Edge rusher is also a huge need because, like I said, it had Hassan Reddick. Pretty sure he's gone. But besides Yaya Diaby, you've got Braswell, Chris Braswell. I think edge rusher from Alabama. I think that's what was his name. Braswell. Chris Braswell. Is he going to work out? Time will tell. I'm not feeling the best about, like I said, any other edge rusher. So again, edge rusher is a huge portion that could potentially, could it be like a Cash Howell potentially? in still on that. Your interior, like I said, you love Vita Vea. You got supporting roles around him. Obviously, you're hoping for a little bit more with Clyde Cansey. But in my opinion, in order for Todd Bowles' defense to work, you got like linebackers that can blitz. You got to have linebackers that can still cover, but you are, in my opinion, I think the Buccaneers are going to go linebacker or bust. Obviously, they would love if Sonny Styles is there. Is there potential they could trade up to see if they can try to get Sonny Styles? Maybe. But in this case, and it hurts me because I love him to death, and I would love C.J. Allen to be on the Panthers. I really want C.J. Allen, but I already know I can never have any good things. I know we're more likely going to be seeing him be drafted by the Buccaneers because I think Sonny Styles is going to go early. But C.J. Allen, leader of Georgia's defense in the last 2 years, for Buccaneers as well. Because like I said, manning a Kirby Smart's defense is hard enough as it is. So like I said, ridiculously smart, instinctive player, and also has athletic tools. Yes, can get better in coverage. Like I said, he's anywhere near Sonny Styles, no. But like as far as being like a pure blitzer, run defender, I'm going to absolutely knock your block off. And I've got the instinct to be able to like pick up on certain things about offense. And going to probably have like a 10-year career. C.J. Allen, I think, is a solid option. I would hate if it happens, but again, I did it for the Saints. If I'm doing it for the Saints, I'm also going to do it for the Buccaneers. Give him an amazing player that's going to absolutely fulfill a need, even if I hate if it would happen, because it's going to happen on draft day. I don't know who it is. I don't know who it's going to be, but there's going to be two people I would be very, very upset they go to division rivals. It happens every single year. So, now with the Jets. Jets for the second pick. So again, first time we have a second person up. As I said before, edge was a huge need. They got Ruben Bay in the first round pick for the second round pick. Defensive tackle is a huge need, but like I said, am I going to be double dipping at defensive tackle, or do you want to get like a better player later on potentially? Cornerback obviously is a huge need. I could see them go cornerback here, but again, let's focus on what's more important right here, right now. If I'm going back to the Jets, and I'm seeing as far as like how abysmal their roster is, you just need impact guys. And again, if I am Aaron Glenn, I am pounding the table for I want people who are going to be good right here, right now. Someone's going to be just I can rely on the fact that I'm going to get another year because our team is talented enough to show promise, and I'm not going to be canned. If that's unless Aaron Glenn has the biggest faith in the world that he's going to last us to year 3, where they have all those picks in 2027, where 2027 has an amazing class already. Unless he has that confidence, I think we're going to try to get guys who are going to be good right here, right now, not projections. So, if I'm looking at that, obviously, quarterback's huge promises of success. Isaiah Davis, same kind of way. For wide receivers, you got Garrett Wilson. Amazing. Garrett Wilson and also Adonai Mitchell are okay. Bigger body wide receivers who, like I said, that's going to knock out Carnell Tate. In my opinion, if I'm looking at somebody who is a zone beater, someone who you can also use with Garrett Wilson where you can move in and out. Somebody who can play a slot. Someone I think he can also play outside too, but I think he's going to be absolutely dangerous in the slot. He gets compared to Amon-Ra St. Brown, which I don't think is fair to him because, like I said, they're just seeing USC. They're seeing, in my opinion, if I'm the Jets, I take Ruben Bay with my second round pick, my number 2 overall pick, to fix the defensive line, fix that run defense, and have a 8 to 10 sack kind of player, and then I get a partner for Garrett Wilson to help my offense. That the next year when I take a quarterback and show him potential as well, and also have whatever happens with Breece Hall. So I'm taking my Kai Lemon to pair with Garrett Wilson. Those, like I said, honestly, I don't feel the most confident in the Jets, but I'm trying to think as far as like That's the reason why I passed on Arvo Reese. I put in Ruben Bain because I'm like, I think he's going to be good starting off in the league. And I get my Kyle Lemon to be like, okay, an immediate impact kind of guy to show Woody Johnson, like, hey, keep me here. We're building something. Please don't fire me. So again, and like I said, I'm not trying to base it off of the lines, but like I said, the same thing with Ruben Bain. Ruben Bain had crocodile arms. So did Aiden Hutchinson. Did that matter? No, it didn't. Am I saying Ruben Bain's going to be Aiden Hutchinson? No. But I'm saying that I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal that people are going to try to make it be with Ruben Bain because you watch the tape, he's amazing. Makai Lemon, yeah, he's a smaller guy, but he knows how to get open. Same thing with Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I'm not comparing him to Amon-Ra St. Brown. But Aaron Glenn was there for that. So if he's going to build up the Jets to try to almost mold in the way of the Lions, you're going to try to get guys that you know can play, that know are going to be immediate impact no matter what people might say, like, oh, the arm length. Oh, da, da. Watch the tape. Are they good? Fine, get them. So again, I would love if that's the draft for the Jets. And like I said, then 2027, they're going to hopefully, like I said, they have some great. It's what happens with Colts, what happens with the Cowboys, like who knows. Let's see here. Sacrifices happen to be made. Emmanuel got what he wanted in the Super Bowl, which I can talk more about here. As my Pats fan viewers are here, yeah. I can talk more here since none of my Pats fans viewers are here. Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I don't know why it cuts it off, but it did cut it off. But okay, yeah, dude. Like I understand. I haven't talked to my Pats friends since it happened because I was letting it kind of like die down a little bit. But yeah, no, it was dominant. But I mean, at least the Patriots defense held on for a little bit after halftime. They made a defensive minded kind of game. All right, so now going to the Lions. Now the Lions, like I said, can go in a lot of different ways. How long have I been streaming? Okay, I'm on a decent pace. So the Lions, like I said, I think they could go guard here. Obviously, like I said, they would have loved if the Penn State guard was there. I don't think they're going to take a first-round pick on a corner because you did that with Terrence. I for some reason, was thinking the offensive tackle. But you're looking at their secondary, like I said, DJ Reed, he's good. Amik Robinson's good. So like I said, he's so again, I think that the Lions might take a second-round pick, third-round pick, potentially, like I said, on their corners. Safeties also potentially, like I said, you could go like impact, probably not. Offensive line, like I said, you're kind of hoping that Christian Mahogany and also like Tate Ratledge can take the next step. You've got Graham Glasgow, you got Penei Sewell, and you got Caleb Lamu, maybe. But again, I don't think they're going to do a first-round pick. I think they'd possibly, like I said, like day 2 kind of pick for that. So instead, right now, decent last year. Are some of them going to be brought back? Maybe, or potentially they'll let them go and go more of a cheaper option. But if you're looking at it right now, Cassius Howell, smaller guy, like I said, 6'2", 240, also has smaller arms as well, which is going to be kind of concerned. So I think the reason why he's going to fall down a little bit. TJ Parker, initially, same thing with Peter Woods, had a lot of potential, and there was a lot of people who were clamoring for them. Both of them dropped off last year. Some of it is like, people were saying it was coaching. Some people said like, no, just the season didn't go that well. But regardless, he also had a little bit of a drop off. Akeem Mesidor, he is going to be 25. Like I said, run defender, great first step, but is going to vastly improve. And then Mason Thomas doesn't fit their scheme either because he's more of like 3-4 defensive end. So again, Mason Thomas and Cassius Howell I think are going to be taken out. So between the two, do I think they're going to take Mesidor or take TJ Parker? In my opinion, just based upon what I can see from Dan Campbell, he's going to want people who have absolutely the highest motor. No stop. Someone who has a great first step. And it doesn't matter how old they are. In my opinion, I think they're going to take Mesidor. If it was this instant where they're going to take an edge, all like as Miami like progressed, like I said, Mesidor was coming on strong. Him and Ruben Bain Jr. Mesidor is an amazing run defender as well. Not as good as Ruben Bain already. So is he going to project as like, maybe a 10, 12 sack kind of guy? No. But do you need that necessarily? No. You just need a guy who's going to be able to spell Aiden Hutchinson, like from his reader. Like I said, in my opinion, for the Lions, I think they go edge rusher. I think in this instance, I would go Mesidor because I think that his bigger body, he's like too for the Lions. Very dominant. There is only so much they can do without help from the offense. True. Which those 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, all those redrafts can kiss my butt after having listened to them for 2 weeks. That's why I hate redrafts. That's why I mentioned before in the video that I did before this. Was like the redrafts are just so dumb. They're so dumb because they take away the fact of all the coaching that you had. They be like, oh, this is like, oh, man, if the Commanders had just taken Christian Gonzalez of Emmanuel Forbes, like that would have changed up so much. Maybe. I mean, Christian Gonzalez would have been great, but like you're not taking consideration of what the Patriots are taking. Emmanuel Forbes probably not. They're probably taking somebody else. How would his development have been so much? I hate him so much because, like I said, it's fantasy land. It's fantasy land. But no, I agree with you. But now going to the Vikings. Vikings also, this one's more so. I probably should make this move more so after free agency happens, but the Vikings, I'm just going to show you their salary cap because that is going to drive who they take. And if you don't believe me, there is a reason. There's a lot of reasons, but there's a reason why their GM got fired, and this is one of them. They are, by far, the furthest team away from being under the cap. They're at negative 40. Negative 40 below the cap. That's not to mention all the people they have they're be losing. So a lot of like like I said, they got to pay Ivan Pace Jr. So they got to find some kind of money to pay Ivan Pace Jr. because they're not going to let him go. You're losing Jalen Naylor, so you need a third option. CJ Ham, you have no money. You got no money at all. So what are we going to do? If I'm the Vikings, I got to cut the two big acquisitions we had last year with Jonathan Allen and also with Javon Hargrave. Cutting just those two people saves you $20 million and saves you about like $20 million next year as well. So like I said, are you going to eat some of that? Yes, absolutely. But it was so stupid for you to pay them in the first place. Now, what else can you possibly do? Well, you know that Christian Darrisaw is in your future, so you restructure that, again, plans. So that takes you to 12. Then you restructure Justin Jefferson. Again, these are only some moves that you could possibly take because that's going to free up like $18 million. So now you got $5 million. With those four moves, you go from negative 40 to $5 million. So basically just enough to be able to afford anybody. So if I'm the Vikings for us, so now I am desperate to go after defense tackle. And there's a person who's staring me right in the face. I just show you that they're losing 3 defensive tackles, and they're all basically starters. You have to go defense tackle. It's Rupter, which is what Peter Woods is. Obviously, he has shorter arms. That's a little bit concerned, but he has a great first step. Has the same problem as TJ Parker as far as being. I think he falls. I think if he somehow. Kwesi, I think I'll say, screwed up royally with the cap, with everything. So again, you're just trying to find somehow, some way to fix it. Obviously, I'd love us to go linebacker, but there's not a linebacker that I would want to take. Obviously, like edge rusher is a huge need, but again, I have my reservations for Howell. Caleb Banks is an option. I think a potential Caleb Banks. Very high potential with Caleb Banks. But I need more of a sure thing as far as like I know this person can do this one thing really, really well. And that's going to be run defense. I want to free up Derrick Brown to be able to do his thing. I want to free up even Char Wharton to do his thing because Char Wharton and also Bobby Brown were absolutely horrible last year. So I'm giving it to the Panthers fans what they want. I've seen a lot of Panthers fans be wanting this pick as well. I'm going with K. McDonald. He's an amazing run defender. Kind of what Talik Williams was last year, as far as being going the same as a path with where the Seahawks were, where you're getting a stout run defender that can free up a whole lot of people and just let people wreak havoc. That's going to be K. McDonald. Being a stout run defender, being a guy who might not give you any kind of like pass rush, but he's going to free up Derrick Brown to be able to be an absolute menace. So again, that's that. Again, do I love the pick? No, but based on how the board fell, I would not be mad about this. Now moving on to the Cowboys. Well, you have your finesse guy with Donovan Ezraku. So do you go with another? Do you go with another finesse guy with Cassius Howell? I don't think so. I think you go with a guy who's solidly built, someone who has high potential, who is at bare minimum going to be a great run defender, and that's going to be T.J. Parker. So again, I think T.J. Parker is going to fall. I don't think he's going to fall. He might not fall this far. I do think he's going to fall. If he's somehow, some way there at 20, Cowboys are going to be thanking their lucky stars that the Panthers didn't take, because the Panthers don't draft Clemson players, never have, and who knows, we never will. But taking T.J. Parker, there's no kind of debate there. Again, I've already talked about what the Cowboys need. So going edge rusher. Now, moving on to the Steelers. This is where I want to see how the free agency goes, because you need desperately wide receiver help. Because if you're looking at it right now, you're looking at you had old Adam Thielen, who was basically one of the most productive wide receivers they had in the second half. And so, like I said, with it, like as old as he is, he was like the guy for you. It's kind of sad because you weren't getting from MVS. Calvin Austin also wasn't really doing anything. Ben Skowronek, Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson has been okay, but he's not been really good. So again, your wide receiver core, not great. You got Pat Freiermuth, who's pretty good tight end. You got pretty good tight end this year. Could potentially be like, where it really shows up, because you got a lot of these players who are in their second, third year in the system. So I'm hoping they transition well this year. You're looking at defense-wise, one of the most expensive defenses in the league. I think it still is technically the most expensive defense in the league. But you also have Asante Samuel Jr., so hopefully maybe he steps into that role. But again, I don't know if you go with cornerback here. So again, I'm looking at wide receiver room. That wide receiver room is absolutely abysmal. So I'm going wide receiver. And like I said, a whole bunch of people are pushing Carnell Tate for Carnell Tate is a great number 2. He obviously improved this year compared to last year, but consistently he hasn't had to be a number 1, because he always had Jeremiah Smith and Jigba. Jeremiah Smith. Why did I say Jigba? I was thinking J. Something another Ohio. So again, if you're looking at it that way, I don't think he's worthy of a top 10 pick. I doubt if he's up for a top 20 pick. So, in my opinion, if I'm looking at him, Carnell Tate, bigger body, wide range, has really great releases as well. Pairing him with Deacons, you just gotta have talented guys who can get open. And I think Carnell Tate can get open. He's got a great catch radius. Steelers need a lot of help. Could I see them go quarterback here potentially? But again, I don't think they're going to take Ty Simpson. Though it could happen. They could take Ty Simpson to put him behind Aaron Rodgers for a year. Who knows? Again, this Steelers are in a very interesting spot. Now going on to the Chargers. This was kind of simple. Like I said, if you saw anything they possibly need, they need offensive line help at all. They have their bookend tackles. So let me put this right here. They have the bookend tackles. They're going to come back healthy. You have your you have potentially, there's the rumor that the Chargers are going to try to bring in Tyler Linderbaum. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I know for sure they're probably going to go with like a safety and I say the best center in free agency because Bradley Bozeman was absolutely abysmal. Safe to take center, but I'm looking at guard. Now, bringing in Mike McDaniel, you're going to be looking for someone who can play a lot more zone. Be like you said, like very fleet-footed, that kind of thing. So, am I taking a guard like Emmanuel Pregnon? Maybe, but I don't think they are. In my opinion, what I think the Chargers are going to do, I think they're going to draft Caleb Lomu and move him inside. Because Caleb Lomu, he's got the same kind of problem that a lot of tackles have, where they're technically sound, but the short arm length is a concern. Again, do I think it's a death sentence? No, but I think in this instant you can move him inside, so you can have Caleb Lomu be your left guard. So you have him in left guard. You got you're taking free agency. Maybe take another guard later on, or maybe another free agency pickup. Like I said, I think that your main flabbergasted me because like I could not see how you could possibly see what happened last year and be like, let's not have a priority to fix our offensive line. So again, I'll take Caleb Lomu, move him in if Lomu succeeds, have an amazing guard, and then also like what you have to do in free agency. So again, I would love that for the Chargers. Now moving on to the Eagles. Eagles are they're so talented, but they also don't have the most money, and so a lot of the moves they make are 1 year kind of things. I think there's potential that the Eagles could retain Jalen Phillips, but are they going to? No. In my mind, I know there's a lot of Eagles fans that are clamoring for them to bring back Jalen Phillips. I don't think they will because, based upon the money they have, are you going to try to pay a edge rusher $15, $17 million a year when you've already got to pay other people who have been in your system for a lot longer? In my opinion, I don't think you do. Like, so you're already going to be kind of strapped for cash. You are paying a lot of people. So I say to let him walk. So you got Jock Hunt, you've got you got Nolan Smith, but you need another guy for your rotation. In my opinion, could Cassius Howard be one of them? Maybe. Could even Armis Thomas be potential one of them? Sure. I think kind of defensive end. Or you take a guy with a high motor, very similar build to Jalen Phillips, someone who's gotten into trouble and with the DWI and also with what was the other thing that he got in trouble for? He got in trouble for something else. Where that has not necessarily been a problem for you because you have taken people who have had problems as well. Cough, cough, John Carter. So, in my opinion, and this is a little bit of a reach, but I think based upon what he's done in the Senior Bowl, what he's done this past year, what he's shown on film, and how his interviews could potentially go, because I think he's one of those kind of people that people are going to love, like fall in love with in interviews, Zion Young. Now, Zion Young is also the same as that guy at Mizzou where I streamed it. I streamed the Mizzou versus Auburn game. He was the one who was barking, and well, not barking, but like he was absolutely going bananas in overtime, and pretty much sealed the game for the Missouri Tigers. Again, were we great last year? No, but position, he's got the length, he's got the strength, and if you're looking at someone who's going to be a part of a rotation, not necessarily your starter, why wouldn't you? So again, you would have Zion Young, you had Jock Hunt, you had Noah Smith, all great pass rushers. You probably like get another guy in free agency who would be like, oh yeah, I want to try to chase a ring for the Eagles. So again, in my opinion, I think the Eagles could potentially go tight end. So I think there's like rumbling that they could like try to get rid of Dallas Goedert. But again, why wouldn't you go for like a second round tight end instead of spending a first round pick on a tight end? Again, that's just based on like how I feel like they're going to be going as far as like money wise. Though Akeem Sadiq on the Eagles would look amazing, or potentially corner because like I said, they have a huge problem with Adoree Jackson being in the corner. Hopefully they fix that situation because he was getting burnt all the time. So again, you need help at corner, but are you going to take another corner where you took a corner 2 years ago in the first round? I don't think you're going to do that. So, okay, back to the Browns. Now, Browns, I mentioned before already, they took a lineman. If they didn't take a lineman first, they took a wide receiver first. They would take a lineman now, but again, it's a lineman first. Now they're taking a wide receiver. So we're looking at wide receivers for the Browns to give some kind of help. Your redraft process kind of stuff that's going to drag them down. Omar Cooper, Jermaine Bernard, and Elijah Sherrod. I like all of them, but do I think it's a little bit too high to take them at 24? So these two, Denzel Boston versus Casey Conception. Who do I feel like is going to be better, like of a Brown wide receiver? You already got Jerry Jeudy, and you got Harold Fannin, who's more of your weapons right now. So Jerry Jeudy guy can get open, a little bit smaller as well. You did technically Isaiah Bond for your speed, but again, has he quite worked out? Not really. So I love Cedric Tillman, but I think they can improve. And in this way, looking for a bigger body, great catch radius, and a smooth route runner, I think you take Denzel Boston if he falls here. Again, I think there's even potential that Denzel Boston could go higher. I think there's going to be some people who fall in love with his potential. There have been some people, comparisons, I think they're very lazy, but it could potentially be something there. Hello, Parker. How you doing? Terrell's the pick. Zion's too slow to play outside linebacker and cover. I think it's potential. Like I said, I like Terrell. My only problem, I will say this about Terrell, I think it's the reason why he's going to fall down a little times. But he's also very inconsistent, playing the run. Like he struggles mightily playing the run. And that's the reason why I skipped him on the Eagles. So I will say this, I did consider AJ Terrell. I did think about a corner because, like I said, I was sick and tired of seeing Adoree Jackson get burnt all the time. But if I know Vic Fangio, the way he likes his corners to play, AJ Terrell does not play the run very well. And I think that's the reason why he's going to fall down a little bit. So again, I agree that yes, Zion Young is, like I said, he's not going to be able to drop back and cover as much. But again, if I'm looking for somebody who's going to replace Jalen Phillips, I'm looking at Zion Young to replace Jalen Phillips because even Jalen Phillips wasn't necessarily the best as far as like backing up into coverage. But I'm looking to move forward for a rotational player. Again, it depends on what the Eagles do in free agency. Like I said, this can obviously easily change. But I think that Zion Young to take players that might have had a little bit of a checker past, and still take them based upon like I know this player is going to do well. So again, I understand like maybe going for Terrell instead. I'm going to go with Zion Young, just because like I said, I think that Terrell's going to slip because of his small frame and his, I don't want to say unwillingness, but like he's not the best against the run, and a lot of people are going to be like kind of knocking him for it, unfortunately. So now moving on to the Bears. So Dobie, the moment you've all been waiting for. So Bears go a lot of different ways. Obviously, like I said, losing so many linebackers last year hurt them so much. But again, you don't have them, and then also maybe you see someone try. I am of the reservation that I think that the Bears are going to think that they could possibly get somebody a little bit later. Like even like they could probably even get Josiah Trotter like later on. I do like Emmanuel. I like him pretty well. Like I said, I think he is he's a ball hawk. I think he's intercepted. See how many people intercepted. That's ridiculous. But yeah, he had a lot of picks in his career at Toledo. You're looking at losing both safeties for the Bears. So safety is a huge need, but do you focus as well? But he's also great ball hawking kind of safety you can take later on in the draft. So I think Emmanuel could potentially be a pick here. Or are looking at defensive line, where if you're looking at your interior defensive line and your edge, right now, you obviously have Montez Sweat, and you have some good, like Austin Booker has shown out. So you're hoping that maybe he develops into his third year, right? Yeah, third year. Um, so if the Bears feel confident in Austin Booker, then I might not go edge rusher first. And if that's the case, I'm looking at defensive tackle. Now, I have both these guys pretty close together. That's Caleb Banks and Lee Hunter. Both of them are around, started out as Auburn, transferred after Gus Malzahn left. And I remember Derek put in the work. And so that was a huge ordeal, like as Lee Hunter was leaving. But Lee Hunter bounced around. They showed in high school, which was being an absolute menace up in the middle, and like I said, being able just to be a disruptor. You need a disruptor up in the middle for the Bears. But I'm going based upon who I think has way more potential. The injury does concern me, but love because as a Florida fan, I'm sure you would love to have Caleb Banks as well. And so you get Caleb Banks to fulfill that role, put him with Dexter, two Florida boys up in the middle, and hope rush duo that hopefully, like I said, have the addition of Caleb Banks, that presence in the middle, can really help that pass rush that desperately needed more help as the season progressed, especially when you went up against the Rams and you got like no kind of pressure really. You did a pretty good job as far as like you're really got a lot of pressure on when we the Q2 where I want the Bills to go because bring more so of a 4-3 defense. Like I said, I can show you as far as like what it used to look like and what some again. Yep. So defense wise, so Rousseau is still back here, but you got Joe Bosa's going to go. AJ Espinoza could potentially be going. Sanders be more of like that DNDT kind of like 3-4 kind of vibe, like more so like lining up over three. Like I said, knew it. He's pretty old, but he can still be like your nose. Deion Walker had a pretty decent year. I felt I love for him because he was just had such bad pad level. He was allowing a lot of people like to get underneath him and just he was not getting the pressure that he got his junior year. But he improved. I think he's gonna be a solid option for them as well. It's like I like the interior of the transition going into a 3-4, and they can always add more in free agency. Like, and you gotta have people who fit that mold. So if I'm looking for somebody who fits that mold, I'm looking at somebody who can play a 3-4 defensive end, who can jump back in coverage, someone who is very, very athletically gifted. The shorter arms are going to be a kind of concern, but again, I think he's going to fall, but I don't think he's going to fall so far that he's going to be somewhere past the Bills. If Cassius Howell is there at the Bills, transitioning to the 3-4 defensive end, I think they take potential with Cassius Howell. I understand the short arms. I think he's going to be able to have him like actually still have a place in the NFL, even though the short arms are still a concern. It's still a concern for sure. He doesn't have like the power of like your Ruben Bain or anything like that. Obviously, he doesn't have the body of Ruben Bain either. But I think he still has potential to be a good player in the NFL in the right scheme. And Jim Leonard desperately needs like more people to be able to transition into that 3-4. So again, this we want to take Cassius Howell. Now moving on to the 49ers. And the 49ers also they can go a lot of different ways. A lot of different ways. Because I'm looking at them right now. Obviously, like I said, you need offensive line help, but they never take offensive line in the first round. Learn behind Trent Williams, but again, they don't take first round. They don't take offensive line in the first round, so that's not going to happen. They could also potentially take a safety, so they could go with Emmanuel, but again, do I think that they're going to be stubborn in a way and feel like, well, we can just make it work? We made it work last year with Robert Saleh. We get some of the people back, so we can run it back with who we have, and it'll be fine. But with everything that happened this past year with the 49ers, with the injuries they've had, people who will still be injured to start the season, and people who will no longer be on the team, yes, it took Ricky Pearsall 2 years ago, but they desperately need some kind of wide receiver help. Are the Pickens a little bit low? Yes. Like I said, Pickens right now is Casey Conception. Chris Bell is coming off an ACL injury, and then people that kind of fit already what Ricky Pearsall does. So I like Casey Conception. I do. I think he's got great yak ability. I think he's a great returner. I think, like I said, he's a chess piece that you could definitely work in Kyle Shanahan's system. Go a different direction, but based upon how this whole entire draft fell, you desperately need wide receiver help, Proctor, and that would work well. You could have him move and retire the next year or so, then he can replace him. That's going to happen. It just doesn't happen. Case is conception because they desperately need wide receiver help. You got Juwan Jennings, who's eventually going to be on the way out. You got George Kittle, who's going to be gone for, I'm trying to think how long he's going to be gone for. Is that going to stay true next year? Here's a wide receiver room. You desperately need help to make sure that. So getting an explosive guy like Casey Conception, that helps. I don't care if there's a generational player that falls to the Texans. Ursary progressed a lot in the season. He struggled, but he like I said, started to make some progress later on in the season. So you got Ursary at left tackle. Ed Ingram, you're probably going to re-sign to be your right guard. He was a great run defender. Pass protector, you need to get a little better at. He's really great there. Outside of that, your offensive line looks horrible. Looks absolutely horrible. So I don't think Trent Brown's going to be back next year. Obviously, you could, like I said, has been moving all up and down the offensive line, kind of like the chess piece of wherever you want to put him at this point. So, if that's the case, let's look at here. Ursary stays here. Jared Patterson, gross. Get him out of here. He was awful. Jake Andrews, you could improve, obviously. He wasn't nearly as bad as Jared Patterson or Juice Scruggs. So, like I said, for now he has like I said, at Ingram State. Maybe you go free agency and you pick up a center. I think potentially you could go. I don't know if the pace core because he does get injured a lot, but he's also been a solid center. You got to take Cade Mays, who's been also a solid center as well. Maybe you go up to the Bills center because like I said he's going to be gone because I don't think they're able to afford him. Titus Howard, whoever the center is, Ed Ingram, and then at right tackle, Hayden Proctor. Again, I know there's concerns for Hayden Proctor as far as like can he, because that's what was really his Achilles heel at Bama, and there was also a huge problem for Evan Neal when he was seeing Evan Neal the whole entire game, and the fact that Evan Neal still went like top 5 still baffles me because he was getting absolutely worked, like literally it one where Bryce Young makes that 98 or 97 yard drive to basically take it to overtime, where Bama eventually won, like in 4 bendy wide receivers, bendy edge rushers. So again, that's a huge concern for me with Kane Proctor. It's why I consider putting him in at guard. Play action pass strengths. You focus more so on the run. He's an excellent run blocker, where he has athleticism enough to be able to, once you get re-engaged for the play action pass, I think he can still hold up. Can finally come through and be what he was his rookie year, instead of being the scared, like kind of guy that he was in the playoffs. So again, Kane Proctor to the Texans. I'm back. You said I'm excited? I'm sorry to cut you off. Love it. Okay, good. I'm glad you love it. I was thinking about you when I was picking between Lee Hunter and Caleb Banks. I was like, I like Caleb Banks a little bit better than Lee Hunter, so I know you're going to be happy if that happens too. Now moving on to the Rams. If Kane Proctor was here, I think that Kane Proctor would be an option. I mentioned before when I picked Delane, the corner out of LSU, an offensive line, but contracts. Not a lot of people are like, that's good. Does he have? He had faith in his wide receivers. He knew it spiral. Does he have? He had faith in his wide receivers. He knew it spiral to ever has maybe Nakua, and you're working with, like I said, one that's going to vastly improve the future secured for Stafford. Do I need to fix my team or tackle here? But tackle in the second round, or you get Texans, Broncos. Honestly, Hunter's not a little bit bigger. I think he's like C6. I think he has more of a length as well. So I don't know if you would trade back. Let's double dip instead of like to pair with Montez Sweat or starts to fall that far. So the finishing up Broncos. I think linebacker is also one. Let me just show you who with Jeremiah Love. Like you're probably waiting to knock off running backs. There's two people who are possibly going to be gone. Like you're probably waiting to knock off running backs. There's two people who are possibly going to be gone. You want to have more so depth, especially where Broncos go. Right there, staring me right in that Evan Ingram would be. Let's give more weapons to Bo Nix, people who are able to move around, that kind of stuff. It would give Sean Pat with the kind of talent wait for a linebacker. And also, if you're another running back, but then again, you can just be super duper sticky, and you're like, dude, this is going to be a great corner. And then you watch the whole entire game, and he's very consistent. Some of it has to do with the fact of what happened with Clemson, where they were not getting the pressure they usually got. But in the run defense too, he was not showing up. Like I said, Terrell almost like a 97% corner. And so you're looking for it more so, okay, well, he's probably Angel wants their players to be able to defend the run. Maybe not. I think that, like I said, in this scenario, Michael Hamlin is going to try to get him. But of a lot of money to spend. Most of your money, Davis, with who's the other one they have big money to? It's like 5 players they have most of their money into. So you're a very young team. You could go offensive line, but there's not really offensive linemen. Like I don't really like Freeling that much. I'm not a big Freeling fan. I understand the size. They're like, oh, we could develop. I'm just not feeling Freeling that much. I think that you like what you have right now. You probably want to bring back Morgan Moses, if I had to guess. Bring back Morgan Moses. You have a great right side. From last year, just progress. And you add more as far as depth on the offensive line, perhaps. But I don't think you'll go with a first-round pick offensive line. Though, if the right person falls, I could maybe see it. Like if somehow Kadyn Proctor falls down, I could see you take Kadyn Proctor. So, not offensive line. Am I thinking they're going to go a linebacker? Again, I think it's potential that you could go with like a Galladay, a Galladay, Hill as well. And again, I want to preface this: some teams, especially later on in the round, especially if they're in the end of the first or they're in the second, they're going to be like, I can just wait for this player to fall down because I feel confident that one of the two or one of the three, the people that I want, are going to fall down. So again, I think that's sometimes to the benefit, sometimes to the detriment of some of these players. Oh, I think I'm going to be a second round pick. Well, teams probably might think you're going to be in third round. You might start slip further down. So again, don't think linebacker. So I'm going to go to edge rusher. So edge rusher because one, the whole entire season, you had a whole lot of problems getting pressure off the edge. K'Lavon Chaisson came on in the playoffs and had a really great year, but are you going to bring him back? Maybe. Harold Landry ain't that guy anymore, and he hasn't been for quite some time. So you're looking for an edge rusher that's going to get pressure, that has a high motor, because like I said, that's going to be a variable kind of guy. And I could see it be Gabe Akers. I think it's big. I could see it be Gabe Akers. Like I said, he's a bigger guy. I think he's like 270, right? Yeah, 270, 6'3", 270. High motor, kind of being R. Mason Thomas, who's a smaller guy, he's like say he's a 3-4 kind of guy. Beautiful stunts by him. But like I said, I'm going between both these guys. Like I said, it being a bigger body kind of guy, to kind of spell when Harold Landry eventually is going to be gone. Because like I said, he's just not that good. If he falls to the Seahawks, Mason Thomas will just be the reclaimers I pick every single time. So I want to kind of make different kind of conversations. So again, in this case, I'll take R. Mason Thomas to add to that pass rush because I know for sure he's going to be a disruptor in the NFL. At bare minimum, I think he's going to be a disruptor in the NFL. Now to the Seahawks, and this one is, I don't want to say a surprise to me, but a surprise to other people. Let me see if there's any other kind of question before I answer. Let's see here. Honestly, would like to get additional than a starter. That's fair. Given the style of offense Sean Payton likes doing New Orleans, he definitely needs either pretty good wide receiver and they don't spend. I think high draft pick on the right back already. Like I said, I think that's the reason why you could potentially look at Jadarian Prince. a lot of people are saying how horrible it is. It's not terrible. It's just you're not getting. You have like one guy who's like generational, and the other ones are pretty good, pretty good. So again, I understand from that angle. That's the reason why like I go for um, what's going to make it more dynamic for Sean Payton to call more stuff, and that is getting Sadiq to add to Evan Ingram. Eventually, going to be Evan Ingram replacement, but also be like you can play a lot more two tight end sets and feel more comfortable with the explosiveness of those two tight end sets that Sean Payton likes to do. But moving on to the last one for the Seahawks, again, I could see them potentially going a guard here because Anthony Bradford is absolutely cheeks. He is awful. But again, do you want to go for another guard when you just went guard with Gray Zabel? And so you have two young guards, maybe. But like I said, there's not really anybody that I would like. I'm not going to look at Pregnon and be like, oh yeah, absolutely, I'll take Pregnon. Um, you're also looking at potentially a linebacker as well. Like I said, obviously, like Ernest Jones is really, really good. But are you feeling the best about Drake Thomas? He did pretty good in the Super Bowl, and he's done good here and there. So I think there are some fans that might potentially be like, well, we can get, like improve upon that position. Again, I don't think it's that huge of a need. In my opinion, the big need is this. And let me show you. So obviously, their defense was generational. Like I said, their defense is probably the best defense. Besides, like I said, obviously you have the Texans. Both of those were pretty damn good. But they're losing a lot. They're not losing a lot. They're losing some key pieces. So as I mentioned before, if R. Mason Thomas is there, I think they potentially take him to replace, like I said, where Boye Mafe. Right now you got DeMarcus Lawrence and Derek Hall as your starters. So you need rotational guys. But you also go like later on in the draft for that. Because like Boye Mafe was second round pick, Derek Hall is second round pick. So go and based upon that. That's the reason why in my mind I'm looking at Schneider as being like, he's probably going to wait the second round to take his rotational piece. Your interior is amazing. Like I said, looking at your linebacker core, like I said, Drake Thomas has actually did pretty good, like I said, in the Super Bowl. So if you're using that to be like a jumping off point, it'd be like he can have a really successful 2026 season. Let's look at the secondary. Obviously, Kobe Bryant, Julian Love played pretty decently. Devon Witherspoon, amazing. But Love is absolutely the need of my pitch because, like I said, he is an Auburn guy. I loved him coming out of college, and I would love for him to get a shot. But in my opinion, it's going to be corner. And I mentioned before, and again, don't be mad at me because I mentioned before. Terrell, great cover corner. Great cover corner. Smaller build, inconsistent, doesn't do well against the run. Those three things are holding him back. And because of that, I don't think he's the pick here. Again, in any other kind of scenario, I'm pretty sure people try to trade up to get Terrell. I'm sure of it. But I think he is going to drop because of that. And there's potential he could drop out of the first round. Again, I think it would be surprising, but based upon what you see in the tape, especially this year, there are cause for concerns that's going to make him drop. So I'm looking for more of a physical corner that I think plays great in man because he showed it as well. Like I said, Mike McDonald doing a lot more man. Someone who is going to fit in the Josh Jobe and Reek Woolen role, not as big as Reek Woolen, but like being a bigger corner, be able to match up well with those. You can look at Brandon, that's potential, but someone that, and this is also who I love too, because I do love him more than AJ Terrell. Not AJ Terrell, sorry, Avion Terrell. Keith Abney. Keith Abney, a 46 passer rating. He had an 86 overall grade for PFF. He, like I said, he has an amazing job as far as, like I said, 32 on 72 targets. 32 on 72. He's more of an outside, your outside kind of guy, better than A.J. Mafe. I think they take Keith Abney. So again, that is going to guesses. Probably sure best. I'm having sure bad connection. I think it might be reset on a different device. Oh, okay. Uh, so again, this is my first. So again, this is my first round mock draft. Well, what in the world? Did it not let me show what I just? It does not. So let's do command minus minus. Eh, eh. We go just for the time being. There we go. We go just for the time being. There we go. So again, so again, March 15th because that'll be other big moves are March 15th because that'll be other big moves are 16th. I think is when I saw that information. 16th I think is when I saw that information started happening as far as like who could mock draft could happen. So again, that one I'll do 2 rounds, but the one the post free agency that but the one the post free agency that was going to be only 1 round as well. Getting more information as far as like what's going to happen. After you're watching me, if you want to watch Tom Grossi, I'm like he is streaming until he reaches $1 million. Until he reaches $1 million, is already over. Is already over like 20,000. Like that's 20,000. Like that's like some people's like whole entire yearly salary, which is it's like some people's like whole entire yearly salary, which is he's streaming and he's but it basically he's streaming and he's but it basically is $1 million. So go check that out. Obviously, $1 million. So go check that out. Obviously, up until like a back with and get up until like a back with and get ready for. I don't have school tomorrow, but I do have ready for. I don't have school tomorrow, but I do have a professional development day, so I do have that.